SBA EIDL loans versus private lending options. How do they work? What are they? How are they related? How do they contrast? Business credit cards with business credit building, getting access to over 250,000 that is not tied to your social security, rather your EIN, no personal guarantees as well. And you're going to be learning about the PPP, the Employee Retention Credit Program. And I'm going to try to go through some examples if we have time at the end of this video. I'm going to try to keep it short and concise, up to about 30 minutes or so. I know if you've been here before, you're like, yeah, but it ends up going to about a little bit longer than that. No worries. The thing you need to understand is you're going to get a lot of jam-packed information, peanut butter and jelly inside of the bread, smack dab together. It's going to be a great tasting bite. You know, like when you, around midnight or at the end of the night, you want something to munch on, you want a quick dessert. So you turn to that thought of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you go make yourself one. You put the effort to, because you know the reward is just going to be so fulfilling with a glass of milk by your side. This is what it will be and a lot more. So I'm going to segment for each and every one of them. I'm going to give them a little bit of time. I even have my notes together right here in front of me. I have it all up here, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I'm going to touch upon the SBA EIDL loan current state, as well as versus what private lending options are. And I've come out with content already out on this on the past. One specifically being the SBA EIDL loan increase versus the unsecured term loans. And one in the future, not sure if it'll be tomorrow or sometime this week, but next week, perhaps you could be seeing one on the EIDL versus the merchant cash advances. And then those are segments that I may be creating more over time because people are enjoying it. Now, if this is the first time you're watching me, my name, it is Michael with Viral Funding Solutions, and I come out with content on all business funding, small business loans of any capacity. You're talking about cash advances, building business credit repair, which I've had a lot of people today going through, fortunately, and helping them out. And so many more solutions that you can take advantage of on the financing side, as well as different opportunities for building your own business, because that's where I began in my background. And then I evolved into this market, which is what I really wanted to do. This was wanting to be my core focus. And as a business loan broker expert who's helped out industries of all types, backgrounds, get the type of funding, whether they're a startup or a non-startup, need just a few thousand to 100,000, 200,000. How do you get there? And that is what my ultimate goal is, to help you understand in an education, how do you get the funding that will allow you to then flourish in your business, to continue to build it, grow it, expand it, and even get out of a tight pinch, because I know how difficult it can be to fund your own business, self-starting and looking for these other options, because I've been there, done that. Now, you're going to hear about all of that and quite a bit more. And again, we're going to try to truncate this in about 30 minutes. But if you're watching me right now in the live, please give me a hashtag live in the comment section, or a hashtag replay if you're watching later on during that time interval. Listen, you're my fuel. You're the person that I go so deep into the waters. Think about it as an ocean. I don't think I can go so far down, but I keep pushing and I keep pushing until I get so below that it becomes more difficult. But I'm willing to go into the depths that you can't see, the depths of the unknown, to get you all the information. And not just that, but to help you in the process of getting funding, the underwriting, the starting, the middle, the ending, collecting the bank statements, the tax returns. I do all of that, and I do it periodically. I do it every single day, and I know what to look out for, instead of you just turning around and going to a place that won't take care of you, don't give you a highly personalized or customized experience, and you're there left alone. They just gave you a portal. They told you qualified for this. Even when you speak with somebody, it's not as specific. I help you out with that and figure out those problems. In fact, I have a free questionnaire you can fill out down below. I'll leave for you in the description if you haven't yet, or we can get in touch. I'll understand. I'll be able to evaluate, analyze all your best funding options, and show you what is the best route and give you a roadmap. So check that out. I'll leave it down below, and I may show it to you at the end of this video. So let's jump right into things. I know that was quite a bit of an introduction. Took about a couple of minutes or so, beyond 2 minutes. So business loans, when we're talking about the EIDL versus these private lending institutions. What are the differences and what are the similarities? Well, let me start off by saying that they are both, in a way, you can get loans with the two, business loans. But one is which you get it through the government, another one you're getting it through a private investor, you're getting it through a lender who is acquiring this money, and they're taking 100% of the risk. They're assuming that if you were to go into a default, then they can come and seize your personal assets. That's why there's a personal guarantee involved, and that's just the gist of it. Even with business credit cards you're going to see today, I'm going to get on the share screen, so stick with me. You'll want to see all of that. Believe me, it'll be worth your time, and you're going to get some bonus tips that'll be around to the very end of this. We're going to try to go through this as quick as possible, but very specific as well. And so when you're getting a personal guarantee, it's not necessarily a problem. It's more of a problem if you're not accountable or responsible. It just shows a lack of organization you may have. And that is maybe something that you have to work on yourself personally first, so then that can help you in your business second. And I always bring up topics like this because it is very, it's a very high value, because a lot of people, they just go into business, they rack up a lot of debt, they have a lot of overhead, and they end up getting themselves in the position where now they're paying on high interest credit cards. They take on so many, they don't even know what to do. They come out here to me looking for loans where they can consolidate and they can pay them all off, if not so many of them. Hi, John. How are you doing? Welcome in. And again, I'm going to try to answer any comments as I go, or I will leave them towards the end. But let's try to stick on topic if we can. Right now, we're talking about EIDL loans versus private lending. And so government versus non-government is what you're seeing. And the lender is taking 100% of the risk in a lot of cases when it's unsecured, meaning you don't have to offer up collateral. And I spoke about that in the EIDL loan increase versus the unsecured term loan option. I'm going to try to leave that video for you down below. But when the lender is taking all of the risk, yes, you're going to see these personal guarantees. Yes, you're going to have to understand that you need to be more strategic in how you use your funding. Yes, you may not get 30 years. That's almost certain. You're going to be getting somewhere between 3 to 12 months, if not 12 months to 24 months. And these are unsecured. So it could be 3 to 12 months with like a cash advance, or it can be 12 to 24 months in a similar sense to cash advance, or these unsecured term loans, intermediate or medium term loans is what I like to call them as well. And if they're not backed by collateral, sure, the lender is giving you their money. They may have received from the bank and or elsewhere. That's where a lot of lenders will get it. And the banks right now are bootstrapping, and they're not giving up so much funding. And so if these lenders aren't receiving as much, guess what? They're holding back, and they're thinking, who can I give my money to? And when can I move my money around? I need to move it around as fast as possible. I only have so many reserves, and I can only come back and get more because the banks are strapping in, and there may be other ways that they get it, but you have to understand that. One other thing too, I apologize if it does get a little bit dark during this live. With this new HP laptop, for some reason, I have the lighting on, but it sometimes goes darker and then it gets lighter. So just stick with me. But I'm going to get to the questions here in just a second. Thank you, John, for your participation. I know the courage and bravery that it takes. I'm an introvert, and I know how difficult it can be to do that. So again, appreciate you, and I'll get to it in a second. So government, EIDL, non-government lending with the private lender, they can assume 100% of the risk, especially when it's unsecured. It's not backed by collateral. And so this is why they don't always offer you the most amount of terms. Your risk profile can be higher, so they give you a higher rate. And then over here, if we're talking about interest rates, sure, you're getting 30 years. So what you're programmed to think are 30-year home mortgages, fixed rates, not variable, and you're set in, and maybe you could talk about refinancing this and then that. These are not home mortgages. And I'm going to jump into that right now, and then I'm going to come back. So I spoke to a huge group of people on this, and I made them well aware that a home mortgage versus getting a business loan or a cash advance are two separate things. Sure, the EIDL loan, 30 years, you're thinking 30 years here, so you're thinking a home mortgage 30, and then you're thinking, so this business loan over here should be giving me 30, 10 years, and that's how it should work. That can be farther from the truth. I've been in this position so long that I know receiving funding from my multiple businesses, as well as helping a lot of business owners understand, is you have to become more strategic. If you're not going to be given a year, you don't qualify. And we're looking at your funding details, and this will come into play with business credit. We're looking at your time in business, your FICO credit score, and some of the programs may look at the 3 credit bureaus of your consumer credit reports, and then we may go into like commercial and so forth, and other programs with business credit and so forth. But we're looking at the time in business, as I said, your industry specific, your FICO, revenue, especially for looking at a cash flowing revenue-based financing program. That's number one. And then secondary can be FICO. Those can determine your rates, and they can determine your term, etc., and your industry specific. And we look even deeper, and I do this with bank statements, average daily bank balances, profits on tax returns, and so forth. But when we talk in time, this is something that I can gather from you. Now, that's what you have to understand. These are not home mortgages. These are not EIDL loans when we're talking about business loans or these cash advances that you qualify for a certain amount. So what does that tell you? As I said, become more strategic on how you will use these funds. Keyword when you leave this video, that should be ringing over and over in your head as strategic. Am I strategically using these funds? First, what am I using these funds for, and will I use them strategically? Is what you should be asking. I've always asked myself that question. If I ever go get funding, if I use my line of credit, if I use this business lump sum, if I'm using my credit cards, what is the immediate use? What is it that is going to produce to me an ROI in the immediate, short term, and even the long term and or long term future? What's the benefit of that? So when you start off with, for example, you have an EIDL loan of 30 years, what it does, it creates a lot of comfortability. And what I mean by that is your expectations are, hey, I'm only going to take a little bit, use it, and then when I need it, it'll be sitting in my account, then I can use it, and then I can reshuffle because I have 30 years. Yeah, sure. But you're not, as a business owner, you're not pressuring yourself, or you're not putting yourself in a bubble to say, hey, I need to use 20,000 in 6 months. Is this doable? Yeah, because in 3 months, I'm going to be tripling. I'm not even going to be doubling. I'm going to be tripling my profits, my gross income, my average monthly revenue, and perhaps that could help with cash flow, and that can also increase my profits over time and get it to a position that I want to be. So if I'm a restaurant owner opening up a new patio set, gazebo, or whatever I have in the back, where I'm going to be bringing in an extra 50 people per day, that's going to be increasing my bottom line per week, per month, per day. And then over the course of the year, where am I? Is this just a seasonal thing that I have where it's a boost, or is this concurring over the time? So that's how you become more strategic and understand, am I producing an ROI with this in the short term? If I only got 8 months, if I had a year, well, okay, my ROI would be in about 15 months. So I need about 15 months. But is it even doable is another question. And so I'm going to get into the business credit cards in a moment and go into why having them is important to a degree, and then adding some of these other programs on top of it. And then we'll conclude from there. So again, just make sure you're being strategic, and the benefit of you taking these funds has to exceed your repayment. Like the restaurant example I just gave you, if you're going to take that funding and it's only going to be used for payroll, for operational expenses, but no growth or expansion, how do you expect to justify making the repayments? Not the lender. I wouldn't be able to. If I see that all you needed is, and the worst reason to be able to use funds for, and disagree with me if you will, payroll. No matter how many employees you have, how many you can't have, how many you can't retain, that is the number one cause for a lot of lenders to immediately say no, if that's solely your primary use of funds. About 50% of it should be used for some of these like business operational expenses and for paying off debt mostly. And the rest of it should be used for growth and expansion. However, if you're just trying to survive and stay up afloat, there's a reason why you may not be getting approved for that type of service or the amount you're asking for. And here's one pro tip. Don't ever look down on the offer you've been given. There's a reason behind that. If you're doing $50,000 per month, however, you're only depositing $40,000, but your revenue, let's say, is $30,000. Let's go with that example. But your average daily bank balance is at about $300, $400, $1,000 at a minimum. But you're depositing 30 and you're doing 40, etc. Like, how is that even feasible? That means more is going out of your account than what is coming in. So having positive cash flow, we're going to revisit this concept with the business credit cards in a moment as I go through my notes that I have here in front of you. But that's why it's so important to have positive cash flow. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be in profit when you look at all of this at the end of the year. So be very careful about what type of funding you're receiving, because the EIDLs can be like this whole mirage. You fall in love with it. I speak to business owners every single time seeking other forms of financing, and they go, well, I'll just sit on my 30 years. I still have, yeah. But then when I talk to them about how strategically are you using your fund, I'm just using them whenever I need them. Yeah, but what if I said, if you came over here and you didn't have the EIDL loan, how would you use your funds? That's where they start to scramble. It almost sounds like Fred Flintstone. And I don't want you to be in that position. I don't say that to be negative. I say that to give you some tough love. A lot of people keep coming back to me, but they don't watch these videos. It's important for you to tune in, no matter if it's 5 minutes, 10, 15, 20. I know who shows up and who doesn't, whether you can receive funding at this moment or don't. I know who is going to ultimately take this and put it into action. Because if you're stuck in motion, let's be honest, you're going to be shopping for the lowest price anywhere you go. So when you look at the EIDL loan interest rates, you could be getting 3.75% for profit, nonprofit about 2.75%. And if it's another SBA 7A, maybe a 504, then you're looking at somewhere between prime rates for that up to about 1 to 4%, or somewhere we'll say about 5% to 9%. Yeah, it's still in the single digits, not in the double. However, do you qualify for them? In those programs, you have to show significant growth and expansion, credit-based, has to be close enough to banking information. Like I have a lot of clients who go through it, but they don't have nearly the amount of funding details that they need to have it year over year, profits, etc. And it's, like I said, it's as close to going to your physical bank, because the bank does deal with that, especially with the cap line of credit program through the SBA and so forth, and what they can guarantee. Let's go to the comments really quickly, and then I'll jump back here. I'll get into startup business grants and loans towards the end of this, John. I do, but I don't pay people. I don't get people to pay me for personal. I don't want to do that. And the reason I don't even focus on that at the moment for everybody else here, it's a lot of time invested right now that I can't put maybe in the future. But I really want to focus on getting my head into the business funding and helping people, collecting the statements, checking them, forwarding it over to the lender. That's what I want to primarily focus on. That's why I have the group, and I have emails, and I can speak with you guys from time to time. That's why a lot of people would like to be in direct contact. You usually get my my phone number that you can text. So if you have that, good. If you haven't, one of the best things to do is fill out that questionnaire down below. You won't be able to stay for all of it. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's okay. No worries. Come back. The replay will be up. I may release this tomorrow to everyone who hasn't watched. And if you have and you need to come back and just review parts, please go ahead and do so. And I'll come back to the comments in a moment. And I know people are still commenting. Welcome in. Hi, Luis. How are you doing? And I'll get to that in a second. But let me get back on topic. So 30 years, when you're going through a private lender, you might be given 3 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months, unsecured, maybe up to 2 to 10 if it's unsecured. But it's even harder, because if you don't have the right funding details, you can get disapproved. And if you barely meet it, you won't go with an A-tier lender. You're going to be looking at the C and below, not even B. And you're going to be giving a higher interest, maybe not the amount of funding you would want, and so forth. And so when we're talking about interest rates now, if it's a cash advance, usually it's based upon factor rates between 1.19 to about 1.7. And it's determined on your risk profile and your industry, your revenue, your credit. But you don't usually have to offer up collateral with these unsecured term loan options and cash advances, etc. And then you can look at about 1 to 3% per month over 12 to 24 months when we're talking about an unsecured term loan. And I'm not going to get too carried away with that. But if you were given a 1% for 12 months at 12%, that is a bargain. And to get that, you have to keep in mind, you have to have strong revenue, like high revenue, not just consistent 50,000, 60. You want to be doing consistently over 6 figures in a lot of these cases. Your credit profile, 700 and above, 725 and above. A lot of time in business, not just a minimum of 2 years. Maybe you have 5, 10, 15. And the bank statements just look so clean and everything else that we would give you the 1%. If not, you're going 2 to 3%. But that's still a bargain in today's market. And like I tell everybody, if you can qualify for a bank, you go there first. And then if you want to explore other options, but I would start there because you could obviously get a better rate and a better term, etc. But there are these options available, and there are a lot of reasons why people turn to these, and I won't get into that right now. So we just spoke about the differences in government funding versus non-government funding, them taking the risk over here. You can offer up collateral if you would want, and you can get a little bit into the single digits, but you're looking at getting into more of the early teens and the later teens, like up to 15%, even with collateral. And below that. So if for those of you who are like, well, I don't want an interest rate of 38% on these cash advances or on these term loans, well, guess what? You may only qualify for that. And then 2, are you strategically using your funds? If not, okay. 3, is it for growth and expansion? No, well, you just knocked 3 things off right there. That wouldn't make sense. And the lender is not going to take a high risk on just giving you money for payroll, and you have a lot that you have to meet because you're having a churn, you're having a turnover, and it's a pattern that you're showing. Maybe it isn't, but we're seeing your industry and we're seeing what's happening in the market, and we predict what will happen in the next following months, so they don't give you that much. Now, one more thing, and I'll come to the comments, and then you got to see the rates, the terms, and there are quite a bit more details that go into this that I can be spending on, but I want to go into the next segment so that we can get forward. Again, if you want to learn about these, like the EIDL loan increases versus the unsecured term loan, that video has already been produced. I'll try to link it to you down below. If not, you can search into videos. And then the merchant cash advance. So it'll be the EIDL loan and the merchant cash advance, and then I make more because people are enjoying those. So I'll keep creating them. But again, there are more to the differences, and there's more to compare with these two. But just know that it's not a home mortgage loan. You should be looking at this as, how can I be strategic? How can I use this for fuel as growth and expansion? If I need to survive, perhaps a line of credit, if I qualified for that, and I can withdraw my funds and use them however I would want to. But now this is going to be a good leadway into my next segment, which is business credit cards. But before I move into a share screen, I'm going to go into my notes really quickly here just to make sure I'm following my next segment and I don't miss anything. And again, feel free to leave me a comment and I'll get to you, if not now, towards the end. Okay, so I do want to segment now into the business credit card. So now let me open up a share screen here. 1 second. So I'm going to leave this on screen really quickly, and I'm going to go to the comments. I have this outer ring that I use with this HP lighting thing that's so distracting. It's probably going to get dark right now. So I can't always see what you're typing. What happened to the COVID EIDL program? Funds were dispersed, exhausted. That's all I'll say right now. I don't want to get too in depth. You're looking for a reliable source to help you process loan requests for small clients, business. So are you saying you want to be the intermediary, like an agent / broker, or how so? Now let me jump into this, show you what I have on screen, and bring back the HP enhanced lighting. How to get up to $150,000 in unsecured no-doc credit cards at 0% interest for 6 to 18 months. That's the real question to answer, and you'll find out that in a second. And this is going to be a segment that leads into with business credit building and getting business credit cards. It's so important for you to understand that in today's marketplace, you can try to combine a few different products. You have the business credit cards, obviously. You may be using credit cards personally, so you're trying to transition over, so you separate the two, and you're not having to continuously take out these personal loans that are just tied to your personal finances that are just going to be used for personal reasons. There are personal loans you can use for business and so much more, but I don't want to get into that too much right now. Just understand that if you're a startup, there's a place to begin with the right types of business credit cards. Now, if you have more time in business, there then may be a few, and then you can get access to these corporate cards when you've built enough business credit and you've built enough high limits. You've demonstrated you can use these different vendor programs when you're building your business credit that then reports to the main business credit bureaus like Dun & Bradstreet and so forth. One of the most secret ones is LexisNexis that actually figures out all the information you have from these different business credit bureaus as well as other agencies and other ways that are collected, that gathers all the information, and it collects like when you've had a UCC lien, judgments, etc., and it keeps it there for a while. It's not like on a 30-day or on a 6-month duration or so forth for the duration of your funding, etc. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself on that. Let me see. I don't want to miss a point here. So first and foremost, before I get into the business credit cards, please, if you are operating in your entity as a sole proprietor, fine. I would recommend moving into an LLC as Corp C Corp if possible. There are many more, I don't want to say get into tax advantages, but there are more legalities, more concerns you may be able to run into, and there's a lot more that can be fundable with an LLC or another entity aside from a sole proprietor. And you get more access when you're building business credit that way, and it looks better to the lenders, to the creditors, etc., when you have a professional appearance. And I didn't know this in the beginning when I first got started in all this. I just thought personal and business can mesh together, but you honestly want to separate the two. You may not see it right this second, but as your business starts to grow in revenue and time, in FICO, etc., you're going to realize that the types of expenses you're taking on shouldn't be underneath your personal. And then if you're liable for something, they can come after you in a certain way for your personal assets, as opposed to you had been building business credit in this format. So you can open up a business checking account very simply. Go to your local bank, ask them for a business checking account. They may say, hey, there's a fee to this, and there's a certain amount you have to deposit for you to get it. But it is very painless. You can really get it done quickly. Just want to go in there with some personal information, and you want to have your EIN ready, obviously, for verification and understanding your business. This is underneath your business. That's why you have an EIN. And I'll jump into the business credit building. And if that's something you're interested in, you guys can check down below in the description. There will be a free business credit building video series where you can get access to over $250,000 in funding that is not tied to your social security number, rather towards your EIN. So your EIN kind of acts like your social security number, but there are many more advantages, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But you're going to be shown that, as well as how do you get access to the 0% interest for 6 to 18 months. That can be something that happens over the time as well, or you can jump into it right away for those links. So I want to make sure I have this here. Okay, so I'm going to come back to, these are my ending routes. I want to make sure we're doing good on time. I'll get to the questions here in just a second. Hi, Kevin. Welcome in. How are you doing? So I do want to highlight some important features of why having a business credit card is important. I remember when I walked into the bank and I was like, they, kind of like that quote unquote, that upsell when you open up a business checking account. Now, would you like to get some business credit cards? Would you like to look at them? And I went, I don't know. I felt like it would be too much of a hassle. I was like, well, I'm just getting started. I don't have enough revenue. Why should I take on a credit card, pay on higher interests? But what I didn't realize was how it actually helps with your cash flow. And what it ultimately does is when you're building your business, especially if you're a brick and mortar, I know this digitally speaking nowadays, when I needed a new desk, a new laptop, I needed new equipment, maybe to do some type of stuff with some certain software services. Having that business credit card on hand is going to allow you the flexibility with your cash flow not to hurt and not for it to go down. And it can stay stable and it can be positive because it's not reporting to that completely until you fully, you're paying off with credit. That's what credit is for. So it's very important you understand that part. And you understand that when you're racking up credit card debt, you are paying those expenses even before you've received any kind of revenue. And that's what confuses a lot of people. They think they should just get into revenue and then start building these business credit cards. They try to hit a certain amount, maybe 5 or 10,000 in revenue, and they never started with these business credit cards that you could be eligible for. And that's quite a mistake, because if you're making purchases, they should be going towards a business credit card when it's also building your business credit, not just paying off and buying certain supplies, but actually understanding what vendor programs and what relationships you can harness to even get a no personal guarantee to start with, what tier vendors you can go and make these purchases with your business credit cards so that it reports to the business credit bureaus. And I know how some people may be confused on that, but stick with me here. So yeah, you can bridge the gap when you're using business credit in the beginning for inventory purposes, new product that rolls around. You may know that it'll sell fast, maybe it'll sell in time, so you only take so much on that credit card and not too much of a burden. So understand that. If you're responsible with building business credit and getting access to these credit cards, then it'll be helpful. So here I just put some notes down, like laptops you want to buy, keyboard, some of the things that I had to go through, especially I know a lot of people have as well. So it helps sustain with your positive cash flow. I already spoke about that. And what you want to be careful of is that you don't have more cash going out of your account, especially in bank statements. When I see this, you want to make sure more is coming in than what is going out. Less of those transactions, less of those withdrawals. Make it look clean, clean up your utilization ratio, and you'll be on better terms. Not only with us as the broker, but with the credit card company. So another benefit of this, and this is one of my favorites, and I know it's probably yours, you've experienced this time and time again as I have, is you get cashback reward points. So that's a huge thing, and it varies for every single card. So I'll go into some of them in a moment and share with you how much cash back and how many rewards you can get on them, how many points, travel rewards, and so forth. There's a lot that comes into that, but usually you see between 1% to 3% on that. And in some of them, you can get up to 5%, and I may be speaking about that one today if we have time, on cash back on these purchases. So I already spoke about this, but I'm going to touch upon it next. And again, this is stuff that I have up here, guys. Don't worry. But I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I have them detail per detail right here. And I want to go through them very well. So you get more purchasing power with vendors. Like I said earlier, if you're building your business credit, this is what's going to allow you to get higher limit credit cards. This is what's going to allow you to then, when you jump into programs like the credit line hybrid, or you could jump into it before if you have 680 and above on all 3 consumer credit bureaus. And there's more information like what you shouldn't have and what you should on the qualifications, but I'll link to that down below in the description so you guys can view more. So more purchasing power with vendors when they see you're making multiple purchases, and you want to do this numerous of times, not just once per month. So if you can come back to it every week, every 2 to 3 weeks, and make more purchases underneath the month, and you're building up these net 30s, net 20s, net 40s, net 60s, net 90s, then you're showing the aptitude that you're able to not only make these purchases, but able to make the repayments and all the interest that you're accruing over the time. And I'm going to speak about that subject in just a moment. So number 4, you get to establish your business credit, as I said, and set it aside from your personal credit. You don't want to mesh the two. There are instances where it may be more appropriate to, depending on where you are in your business, but most business owners will tell you this, that you want to separate your personal and business. That's what you want to do. And I can get into it even deeper, but I want to segment into this next part because of time, and I know we're over the 30-minute mark. Thank you guys for sticking with me. So I think the most safe and secure benefit to this is you get business protection. Like I said in the beginning with number 1 is you're going to protect your cash flow at the end of the day. You may be in pre-revenue and you just need to use these business credit cards to jumpstart your business. But what you have to ultimately understand is, what are you making purchases on? Can you even make those repayments? And that's where a lot of business owners find themselves in a bad situation, is you over purchase, you build and you take on so many credit cards, and so much debt is being accrued over time. And even an established business owner will tell you this. I've been there. It's difficult when you get to a point and you have so much overhead and you're making these extra purchases, but you didn't foresee what would have happened in 3 months. So you have to make purchases with the right objective in mind coming into it, not just getting credit cards and using them as you like because, hey, I saw a new piece of equipment. I'm going to go and try to purchase this. Well, two, do I have enough limits on this? No. Well, I'm going to try to apply for another card. I'm going to try to get a credit builder card and get me where I need to a point. But at the end of the day, you can't make those repayments. You're not cash flowing. You're not moving up. The return on that investment wasn't proficient enough. So you have to understand these things. Protects and sets up your capital, credit cards, and offers you protection. So why should you get a business credit card? And then I'm going to get into the credit cards you guys can check out. But let me look over here into the comments. 1 second. It'll get dark for a second. What's the best way to check Nexus? Lexus, I'm going to read these two first from Kevin. Do banks get business credit utilization info from Lexus Nexus? Yes. That has more visibility than Experian small business? Yes, 110%. I'm not sure if you heard this in the beginning, but they do. Lexus Nexus has all of the information over a year's worth time, literally over the duration of your business. And it's able to show, okay, when did you have a lien? When was this filed? When was this reported, etc. And it gives more information to them. So then that can spit out more information to like the banks and it's to the credit unions and so forth from that. So a quick search with Lexus Nexus will take you there and you can get set up and understand more. But a lot of this isn't usually offered on the front end. A lot of it is shown when you're building your business credit. So you want to get into the right program that'll allow you to see more of that. I know it's it can be very confusing to a lot of us who especially are just getting started. I'm not a startup at this point. I've passed all this. It is very safe. It's secure. It's simple to go through. I still want to say it is easy because simple and easy can be two different terms in two different contexts. So be careful of that. But it's as easy as you make it. If you want to make your world hard on yourself, if you want to be that individual who, let me move this over and then I'll complete this sentence. If you want to be that individual who I speak to and goes, well, I thought you would help me, and I did. I mean, I spoke to a bunch of real estate investors just recently, and I speak to business owners of all backgrounds and industries, and I'm seeing a trend in a pattern where a lot of business owners, they feel like obligated or they're feeling, what's the word? Entitlement. That's the word. You feel entitled to getting funding, but if your criteria doesn't make sense, no lender is going to be giving you $50,000 when you're only doing $10,000 in revenue. Pre-revenue, what are your options? I'll try to go to that at the end, but I'll leave startup down below in the description so you guys can check that out. So if you feel entitled to something, you have to reshift your beliefs and your thinking, and that's what I'm here to help you with as your business loan broker / agent who understands all of this very well. And I fund clients every single day. And I do necessarily take the time and personally, not business solely. I focus on helping you as a personal human being first and then business second. And that's what differentiates me from everybody else. And I know my stuff. A lot of people just create videos on YouTube or blog posts and social media, and you're persuaded a different way, but you have to be very careful about it, especially the ads where you see somebody commenting, you may think it's legitimate. So be careful of that. And I know the factor of receiving funding. So I come from that world as well, with no revenue to then having it and then having business credit established. So not to go off on a tangent, I may share about that at the end if you guys want to stick around. But if you feel like, hey, well, I can't get 10,000, what is my other option? Well, perhaps a personal loan if you can qualify. Okay, well, how about a startup loan? Well, they're somewhat similar. And then let me add some business credit cards on top of that. Okay, and then I have this credit line stacking program. Well, I need to fix my credit first. I'm at a 650. I want to get to at least a 680 so I can qualify for all three credit consumer bureaus. Well, now you have a roadmap instead of just saying, man, I just wanted an angel investor. I wanted it easy at the end of the day. And those things aren't necessarily easy. It's just you're looking for the lowest barrier to entry. And that's okay. But at a point, you're going to have to start elevating and thinking, damn, I can't get this merchant cash out advance. I can't even get this unsecured term loan. I don't even qualify for a personal loan. My credit sucks. And what should I do? Oh, there's angel investors, hedge funds, private equity, etc. But you also have things like the 401k IRA financing. You have the home equity line of credit, the HELOC, as they're known as, cash out refinances. You have properties. There are a few other scenarios that are in the mix, but I don't want to take up too much time on that right now. So why should you get a business credit card to begin with? And I have about 4 to 5 points here, and some of them are more specific. That's why I want to reference them. And again, I know all this stuff already up here, and if anything were to change, you guys would know about it. So you want to set up your entity first. What I mean by that is LLC, C Corp, S Corp, sole proprietor. What are you? How do you identify your business as? And this can also go into business name as well as the DBA, doing business as, because those can be two different things or they can be similar. And then you start getting into, okay, after that, bare minimum, then you may be a little bit more eligible. But then secondly, it takes you down this path where you want to be building your business credit profile. So at a foundation to build business credit, it won't matter to you guys if you're just getting business credit cards and applying and buying, making these purchases that are not even reporting to Dun & Bradstreet, LexisNexis. They're not reporting to Experian, Equifax Trends. They're not reporting to any of it, but you think it is. But you were misled. And then secondly, you're applying to those wrong programs that are outdated now, that don't work that way. They used to be well for a startup. Now they're not. They're more for an established business. And I've been there where it's changed time and time again. So having your entity built and having the foundations for business credit is priority number one. And if you guys want to learn that, I'll show you guys in a moment how to get access. But down below will be the free business credit building video series. No cost. You can just get started. There will be a couple of videos you can watch from myself, sharing with you what you should do about the 5 to 7 elements you need at a foundational level if you want to build business credit, and if you don't want to make the mistakes day after days, weeks after weeks, months after months, and year over year of trying to figure it out on your own, wondering and scratching your head and everything else, and wondering, whoa, when you're sitting on your couch, why did I do it this way? I should have just listened to this guy when I was watching that video. Or if you're somebody who goes, this Michael guy, feel free, I don't mind, but you're going to learn the hard way. And I'm an expert in this space. I hold meetings, I attend meetings, and I know what to expect in and out in today's market, in today's economic situation that we are going into, and in the impending quote-unquote recession. But not to go too far away from this, set up your entity, business name, business address, and all of this down below. I'll show you guys those elements on how to get started and check it out. And then number 2, this goes as a part of that sequence of building your foundations of business credit building and getting access to these business credit cards. First and foremost is applying for your EIN. Nobody's going to give you a business credit card if you don't show an EIN. Why do you think at the banks that's what they would ask for? Because they want to be able to verify that you are a legitimate business, you are registered with the IRS. First and foremost is what you want to do that. I made mistakes like this, guys, so don't worry. If you're in that situation where you're like, oh, man, I've been there, done that. Until you actually go through it, you'll experience it. You can watch as much content as you want, but if you don't take the action of this, it won't matter to you. You're going to continue to roll around. You know that emoji where the guy's like looks like he's walking like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, like with his hands behind, he's like walking like, cool, dude. Do you want to be that, or do you want to be somebody who goes, yes, I took action today. I learned this, but I implemented it, or I did it today, and then tomorrow I took action on it. I revisited it because I care. I don't care. Okay, that's going to take you in a different direction, where in 5 months you would have looked back and thought, damn, I wish I would have just taken some time to do what this person was telling me to do. I have a roadmap. I'm just lazy about it. I'm just going to continue going down the path I want. And it's just going to hurt. It's going to be a reflection in your business, your statements. I spoke to a lot of business owners recently who are negative in their accounts. They didn't have reserve funds. They didn't have access to business credit card that would have been useful. And now that they know this, they're applying what I'm telling them and all the information that they need. And it's very credible. So set up a bank account with the credit card you want. And this, I left it as an optional. I would recommend it if you're allowed to, like Chime, and there's a few other ones out there where you can go in there and build your bank account with them, and you can have multiple ones. Just understand where you're depositing your revenue into, your cash, ACH, checks, etc. You want to deposit directly into the one business checking account that is going to be producing you to the most highest revenue and what you're leading in with when you apply for funding. Today, I released a video on a company named Plaid, and they're a safe and secure financial app where you can link your banking account and it'll verify it is who you say you are, your information, business name, and we're looking at the right statements and just doing a bank verification. And that's bank verification is usually at the end with a different program, and I won't get into that, but it's called Decision Logic for the most part, what it's used as. But when you're using a company like Plaid, if you go through this app sequence, usually it's online and you're asked to select your bank. Let me know if you've done this. I've done it. Select your bank, Chase, boom, okay. Now we got to verify, link, boom. And a lot of people don't want to link it because you may not feel like it's safe. Like they're going to take my username, they're going to use it against me, they're going to take money out, they're going to do something fraudulent. That won't happen, especially when you come through me. I don't know about other people out there who are trying to get you, maybe bait and switch. I don't do any of that. I take care of everybody very well. Like I say, it's like you're sitting right next to me. Like, oh, I forgot we were here supposed to talk about business. Like I got wrapped up in helping you and understanding who you are and what do you have going on this? Oh, you have 4 kids. Nice. Are you guys doing anything fun on the weekend? Oh, you guys are going to the playground? Yeah, I'm going to be out of state. I'm going to be visiting in Lake Tahoe. I haven't been there. It'd be pretty cool to go and visit. So little things like that. There's no pressure with me at all. And I don't just say that. I mean it. So over here, I have a few more things, and then we'll go into the credit cards. Okay, so obviously what you want to do when you're at this point with step number 4 is you want to apply all necessary of the information you need to provide so that they can allow you and they can verify if you can get this business credit card that you quote unquote may be eligible. So they need to run it and make sure. Otherwise, you won't receive access. It's not like just saying, hey, I have an EIN, I have this personal information, government ID, and a bit more so that you can provide. Excuse me, this is what happens when you have cereal. I know I've said that before, but I mean, a dairy product. So that's what you want to know. And when you don't have business credit established, a lot of these banks and so forth will want you to have some form of business credit established. That's why it's very important for you to build your DNB profile, etc. I know who does and I know who doesn't. And I see it time and time again, but they're going to have to run it underneath your personal credit to see if you can qualify for that business credit card. And again, it's not keeping it separate from business, just so you know, but you may be qualified. And yes, you can qualify for some of these with sole proprietorship as an entity and LLC and so forth when we get into it even at a higher level. So you want to maintain, obviously, a good personal credit score, and you know what your bank is looking for. They're looking for high enough of a score. It's stable. What are you doing? How are you paying your debt? How long it takes you to pay it off? How much are you accumulating over a certain period? Credit utilization, all of this stuff that's happening in your own personal life will be taken into account, because if you can't make the payments, obviously, it won't be able to allow it or give you enough of a higher limit credit card. So that's how you get access to these higher limit credit cards from the beginning, is you have a clean profile. If not, don't worry. You maybe started off with a few $500 as a credit builder card, and then over the time you start increasing your limits. Maybe you get access to more within those subsets or other credit cards from other companies. So personal guarantees, usually you will see when you get a business credit card. It's just very common, especially if you don't have sufficient time, your profile doesn't look like you've been in business for long enough, or you're not generating a certain amount of revenue. And revenue wise, they're not just saying you want to be doing 50,000. We want to see you doing 60, 70, 80 and above. And a lot of these 100,000, like 6 figures a month, to be able to then say, hey, you qualified for this. We qualified you for this personal credit card, or excuse me, this business credit card, or this corporate credit card within your company specifically. So then we can look at it differently and say, hey, there's no personal guarantee involved. But for the most part, that's what you'll see. So you already know this. Personal guarantees, if you don't make the repayments, then a seizure of your personal assets. And that's just a very common. You'll see that with business loans as well as cash advances. So you have a risk of non-payment, too high for your credit card. So be careful. Again, that goes back to being strategic. This whole video you should be understanding with business credit cards and funding is you need to be strategic about how you use it, how you use a combination of them. So you're not losing track. Oh man, I used 8,000 on my credit card. No, and then I have another one with 15, 20,000. Now I'm 28,000 in. Now I'm overhead this much. Well, I need to get a loan to help me pay these cards off, but it's not showing like you can even make the demands of it. The repayment isn't there, the structure. So how can we give you funding if the lenders don't even think they're going to be making their money back? So it's very common sense, a lot of this, but I need to keep making sure I drill it so you guys understand this and like what I deal with every single day. So to not get a personal guarantee, you're looking at corporate credit cards. I'm going to name a few of them here in this video, or one of them at least. So this is where the company is responsible, not just you solely. So for corporate, like I said earlier, you want to have more of an established profile. More established business credit is primarily the one thing they'll look at. And then they'll look at revenue because it is credit based. So they'll look at your business credit establishment. How much do you have? What is actually reporting? What's been reporting? What is the pattern? So it's like projected. It's projections of all this, etc. So you would start with the personal guarantee if otherwise. So let's go into some of these credit cards and I'll show you what you guys can do thereafter. And if you guys are enjoying, let me go to the comments first. If you guys are enjoying this, please give it a thumbs up. If you get value out of it, I would greatly appreciate you if you shared it with anyone else. It can be a complete stranger, a friend, and or a family member. But you know, at the end of the day, when you rest your head on your pillow, you have that thought and the feeling of safety that, hey, I didn't maybe know this person, or I had a friend or family who actually needed the help, and I was able to provide that for them. And whatever situation they're in right now, financially or wherever they may be in the future, I was able to put my part in it because they were struggling before. They didn't understand who to turn to. They just kept watching somebody's content after content. This guy doesn't just talk about business credit. He's in the funding world, and I am in it every single day. This is what I do. I'm in the trenches. I'm like your soldier going into battle, grenades being thrown, and then me going to the next trench, and then me going to the next part until I finally get to the end result in the battle. There's another war that continues. That's what I'm doing every single day. Now, let me come back over here to the comment section. I wouldn't say there's one specifically, Gabriel. And how are you doing today? I would just, domain wheel, name generators. I like to go into those because even if it's not directly the business, just the business name, your business name is it's a part of your domain. So when you go to those, it gives you some list of ideas. What I wouldn't do is like be so high on the NICS code. So the NICS code for everybody in here, it determines the risk of your industry. So I know one, like I just helped my uncle out. He's building his building maintenance company and repair, like automotive repair, other types, like even handyman work, that's part of it. It's considered high risk. So if having the name maintenance or having the name repair in the domain isn't something necessarily that I would lead in with 110%, especially in the domain part of it, because it can hurt you rather than help you when it comes to building your business credit. And there are a few more. Domain wheel, Namecheap, those are a few that will generate ideas for you. And it's not exactly business name. It's more of a domain name generator. But what you see is you'll get a flux amount. You'll get like verbs, adjectives. That's what I do every single time before I go open up a new business or I open up a new domain. I'll go and search these accounts and I'll figure out what to do. Not like accounts as in like go in, but you can go in there and get started, and you can even type in business name generator and it'll bring you those results as well. That's what I would do in Google. But some of the few that I just mentioned are ones that I would turn to get more access. And there are a couple more that I didn't list, but that's one thing you can do. Hi, Michael. How are you doing? Yeah, I mean, I appreciate phone calls. And I'm going to say this here for everyone else watching, and then I'll jump into the share screen and show you these business credit cards. I get a lot of us are old-fashioned business owners. We want to get on phone calls every second. We want to revisit in another week and then another week and then another week. And no, I'm not rolling my eyes to any of that. I am very open to it, but it has to make sense. Like for a lot of individuals, no. A lot of people, maybe you don't qualify for funding now, and that doesn't necessarily mean I don't want to get on a call with you. It just means it's going to be more time spent on a situation that, hey, it's not moving anywhere at this moment. It's more based on emotion than it is on logic. And I love hearing your side of things on the emotional level. Listen, I do. Personally, that's what I love. But then secondly, like I did that in the very beginning. I had a lot of people of all industries who were like telling me, yeah, this is my thing. I have my business plan. I've got, this what I'm going to do in 3 months. I got an event I got to go to. I'm going to open up this with a few more schools, or I'm going to do. And then when we get into, which I love, and then when I get into like, hey, does this make sense on a numbers level? No. Well, okay, it's fine. We spoke about the two things, but how much time did we spend? And so, yeah, there's to a degree, phone call makes sense, even if you don't receive funding at this moment, but it has to be time spent well. And I'm not from the old school mentality. I am considered to be an old person at my age. A lot of people will tell you that. Very, not, I guess, old fashioned, you want to use the word, but I would rather not get on call after call after call after call. And it's not because I don't like to get on a call as an introvert. It's just, it's not the best time spent. And a lot of people who do otherwise, a lot of the times they don't really understand what they're doing, or they don't have enough credibility or enough stuff established. People just want to hear your voice. I get that. And I'm very respectful of that. And people have to be respectful of my time and energy as well as I am for yours. I'm very punctual. So if something doesn't get taken care of, I will usually cut the conversation short, but not in a bad way. So it's not to be negative. But what I tell a lot of business owners is if you have the information already on hand, you're receiving it from me. Even if we didn't get on a phone call, it's all there. All you need to do is take that step. But a lot of the times people don't ever end up moving forward. A lot of these 3 to 4 phone calls, I'm like, sure, we have already established a personal relationship. Good. Yeah, that's what I care about most, honestly. But like, where were you 6 months from now? What happened 3 months later? What happened about 8 months from now? You just never gave me feedback. So I really much dislike a lot of that. And again, I'm working on hundreds upon hundreds of files per day, and I'm not joking you. Like, if you guys were to see my email, it is flooded, and I have multiple email accounts, but I'm helping. I'm getting in there. I'm going to go back and fill out some questionnaires soon. But what I would appreciate for a lot of you guys is, hey, the information is there. Take advantage of it. Jump on it. Watch the review videos. Go through it. Send me a quick text message if you have my mobile number now. Send it. Not always necessarily do we have to get on a phone call, but we could have covered in a few sentences. And be cognizant of somebody else's time and energy. There is a place and time for it. Don't get me wrong. So without spending too much time on that, what I want to get into next are the credit cards. So let me get into the share screen, which I am already on. Let me just transfer this over. I think there was one more comment. Let me come back down here. Yeah, okay, cover that part. Solar, nice. Hopefully this information is helping each and every one of you, and you guys can come back and watch the rest if need be. But like I said, I'm not like saying I don't want to get on calls. I do. Believe me, I do. But I've had people who, doesn't matter the revenue, people just recently who are doing 800,000 and above per month, do it upon millions annually, who I just talked to them on Facebook Messenger and just simply told them what they needed to do, or I sent them that email questionnaire. That's how I usually go about it. Okay, start their application, submitted their information, they're on to the next part. Where I see a lot of people holding back on that, and I'm not going to pick on one industry specifically, but I'm going to be very honest with you. Most real estate investors are like this. And the reason I say that is because they already have a list. You may have an Excel spreadsheet of all these different lenders and all these different commercial, residential, fix and flips. And now you're just trying to figure out the market. So you're going to a different person like myself, and that may never go anywhere, but you're just trying to collect information, which is fine. But what I see a lot of the times with real estate investors is this dilemma of stuck in motion, never taking action. They're looking for 100% financing where it doesn't exist, or if it does, gets you in a bad situation over the long term. It's not good. So that's where I see a lot of this dilemma with specifically real estate investors. I'm not saying you, but this is a common pattern. That's why I don't always get on these Zoom calls or these phone calls. And it's because of that. It's because of the, I just want information. Okay, well, I could have sent you that information in an email. We could have avoided the Zoom call if this was never going to go anywhere. And I'm not saying it has to. What I'm saying is if it's not going to develop, then just the information you have is sufficient enough. We can move forward with that. And again, there are times and places for everything. Hi, Gabrielle. Yes, I do them occasionally. I love that you brought up that point, and I'm going to say it out loud for everybody in here. Gabrielle here is saying, get the most asked questions, then do a live answering all those questions. Just an idea. I've done it in the past, so some time ago. I haven't come back to it. And I do frequently ask questions that I'll bring up. But I will try to do that again in the future. I'm going to try to create a little document or a little questionnaire or place where I can, like, hey, do you have any more questions? And I usually come about that in a round of broadcasts. I just haven't done it recently. So I love the point that you brought that up. And I have done that again in the past. And I know how these work. And then I can answer them fully. And then a lot of people have access to me. So that's another format where you guys can leave me a question. So over here, oh yeah, it's timed out. This is one of my favorites, and it works exceptionally well. The Wells Fargo Business Platinum Credit Card. So you have a few with the Wells Fargo department with their banking. You have the Wells Fargo Secured Business Credit Card. Let me move over to that one because I had that. I had it on my screen earlier, but it had timed out. And the reason I wanted to type this in really quickly is to see something that I may have missed. Okay, so let's come back to this. So one of the credit cards that I prefer is the secured business credit card with Wells Fargo. Let me move this over. 1 second. To open up a new tab over here for this next part. You're not seeing this. I'll transfer this over in just a second. Okay. So one route you guys can take, we'll leave it on this screen. You have a couple of business credit cards through Wells Fargo. And these are exceptional if you especially bank with Wells Fargo, what I would recommend you start with. A lot of business owners, they like to make cross transactions. And when I say that is they want to go from one company to the next one, which is not a problem. But if you're already banking with Chase, if you're already banking with Wells Fargo, you have an Amex card, American Express, then understand that there are more opportunities for you to go there and focus, because then that can open up more routes to like a line of credit. And then that can open up more other funding programs if you qualify for them. So like I always tell people, if you can qualify through the bank, you want to start off there first. Secondly, then you might want to look into more business credit cards. So new customer offer, earn a one-time $300 cashback bonus. Oh, so you guys can see that. 1 second. When you select the business credit rewards program and you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months after your account open date. So similarly to when you're pushing in money in your business checking account, you want to make sure you keep it at a limit. Obviously, when you open it, you don't want to go through the negatives, the overdrafts, the chargebacks of the worlds. That's where you get yourself into a problem. So that's what you will get in rewards after spending $3,000 in the first 3 months after that account open date. So what should you be doing when you're spending $3,000? Do you just spend it lucratively? Do you just go and do what you're continuously doing? No, what you need to do is stand back and ask yourself, how am I effectively using these funds? What will they be used for? And will they be helping me with vendor accounts that then will be opening up these trade lines and opening up these accounts for me? That's how ultimately you need to be looking at it, and not just making purchases everywhere and anywhere and thinking you're building your business credit. And even if you are, they're not reporting to the right agencies. That's what's most important. If you're not reporting something to the Dun & Bradstreet, which isn't always bad, then that's not going to give you enough leverage for a different tier lender, for more of a retail, for a gas side of the equation. There's a lot of this that goes into play. So cashback option, earn 1.5% cashback on qualified purchases, which is really good. Like I said, the 1 to 3% range is generally where you go. Reward points options, earn 1 point on every $1 spent and receive 1,000 in bonus points every billing cycle when you spend at least 1,000 on qualifying purchases. So that is, if you think about it, it's at a bare minimum of the amount you're spending in relation to helping your business cash flow wise. So that's why it's good when you take on business credit card debt that you're paying with these expenses, that then you're making up for it in time when you're repaying it. And it's not hurting your cash flow because, again, when we talk about credit and debit, there's a difference. You're putting this on credit and then you're paying off later. So 0% introductory rate for the first 9 months. This is one of my favorite features. And if I would advise anybody getting started, again, with building business credit, especially as a startup, you look for these 0% introductory rates. You can get even up to 9, 12 months and so forth. So for 9 months, that is amazing. But again, you're securing this. It's not an unsecured credit card. So you can view more details there, but I'm going to go through this because of time, and I know we're way past it. Appreciate you guys for being here. I'll try to go to the comments in a moment. So Wells Fargo Business Elite Signature Card. So there are levels to this, okay? For businesses with annual sales over 1 million. Now we're getting a little bit above the startups, and I'll go back to this again. New customer offer, earn a one-time 1,000 cashback bonus or 100,000 in bonus points. So now you're seeing those points coming up. When you spend 25,000 in the first 3 months after the account open date. For a lot of business owners who are still generating that kind of revenue, it will be a tough ask. But for many, it isn't, because you're continuously doing that already on a monthly basis. You're just putting it on this Wells Fargo Business Elite Signature Card. So if you're already spending 100,000, maybe there's a credit card that's not allowing you to get the amount of bonus points you want. So I would switch over, if possible, to this. And if it's reporting and it's helping build these vendor trade lines, etc., that is ultimately what you should be doing. So cashback, similar to the one we just saw before, with 1.5% cashback on every $1 spent, or earn 1 point on every $1 spent and receive 5,000 bonus points when your company spends 10,000 or more in any monthly billing period. So that's any monthly billing period for those cashback or reward points. And that's a huge amount of flexibility that Wells Fargo is allowing you to have because you're more of an established business. They have more confidence and more trust that you can do this. So they give you more of a minimum at that point. So travel incidental fee reimbursement up to $100 per calendar year per company. Annual fee, $0 first year, then $125. So there's a bit of a difference there. And we can view more of the details if necessary. So let me look at this other tab that I have open. I know I have lines of credits open. 1 second, and I'll come back to the share screen. And in a moment, you guys can leave me a question, comment, or concern. Like you guys can hear me typing. That's what I'm doing. Just want to make sure I have the right documentation up here. And then I'll jump back on board. Okay. And there's a couple of cards that I want to make sure I don't miss. That's why I'm doing this on my end. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so we just spoke about the Wells Fargo cards. I have everything now. It's on my other share screen that I'm looking at. So we spoke a little bit about this, and I want to touch upon it before I jump into my next one. So cashback options, You get to earn the 1.5%, as I said, cash back on every $1 spent, reward points earned. We spoke about that. Some of the pros to this, the no annual fee, 1.5 cash back option, 1 point per dollar reward option, 500 to 25,000 in a credit line, and then no foreign transaction fees. Some of the cons to this, $25,000 in limit is across all Wells Fargo cards for the business. So that's can be a bit of a downfall. You're looking at it from that point. You get to choose from cashback or rewards, can be confusing. We went through some of that already. High cash advance and transfer fees. So with any kind of interest on these business credit cards, it can be quite a bit. So that's just what you expect with a lot of these from Wells Fargo. Okay, let me make sure. And again, I have my other tab open here. Want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, so now I'm going to transition into the next point. Let me open up this new tab. I'm seeing it right now. All right, one of my favorites and one that I would personally use here, not like personally, but one that I enjoy. You have the Inc. Business Cash Credit Card from Chase. Now, I've released some content on this already on a few other of the Inc. Business credit cards, but this one nonetheless is one of my favorites, especially when you're just getting started out. And you can see a bit of the information here. And I have all of this already. I already know how it all works because I've been a previous user of it. But I want to make sure that you see this and you know it's all there in front of you and we go through it together. So there you have some options. Apply as a guest, sign in to apply faster. And on the right side here, kind of like your dashboard, on the left, you have like a little navigation on the features. 750 bonus cash back after you spend 7,500 on purchases in the first 3 months after account opening. So you'll see this common feature with a lot of these business credit cards, spending 10,000, 5,000, however much you need to spend. And usually on lower limit credit cards, you're being asked to spend a little bit less on those purchases in the first 3 or so months, however much is asked. 5% cash back, you get to earn 5% cash back on the first 25,000 that you spend in combination purchases at an office supply stores. So you have things like Office Depot, Office Max, and those are great advantages because when you're building out your business credit, you can apply to those places and build those trade lines. And so that's what's very important for you when you're going through and you're getting office supplies, tools, maybe for your construction business, just for your office, etc. That'll be very helpful. On the internet, cable, and phone services, each account anniversary year. So it's not just going out there and making purchases and not just saying, hey, I'm going to go to this place. Understand what vendors to go through so you can build business credit appropriately and you get access to these funds. 2% cash back, employee credit card at no additional cost, redeem for cashback rewards, monitor and protect your business. As you can see, 750 bonus cashback we spoke about, 5% APR, 0% APR into APR for 12 months. That's amazing. From account opening on purchases after that, it's 14.754% APR to 20.74%, ARR on all of that. So variable APR, just so you know, variable with fixed variable there. So you have a little bit of information there. You can explore some of the additional benefits if need be, but we're going to just go to the next one. And I know I can spend a little bit of time on this. Employee cards at no additional cost. And what are some people saying? This card has been very helpful in helping my business grow. I use it mostly, and we can go into each and every one of these. Let me see, click here. For inventory purchases, I enjoy seeing the little kickback to give me the form of cash back. I hope to continue to grow with them. So this person here using it for inventory, very common, especially with retail. You have inventory of any type you want to use it for. Inc. Business Cash Card is great for business. I use my card on a daily basis on purchase products for my business. I love the reward points and at the end of the month. Useful for business. This is useful to have if you need a business credit card for certain expenses when traveling or in other situations. I wish I had more perks, but it's a good basic business credit card. So at a minimum, that's what you're getting. And there are more business credit cards with Chase. So I'm going to leave it at that. There are some with travel. And a few of their unlimited and more of their platinum ones. But this is just one to start with. I've already created content on the other ones, and the other ones are pretty cool. I use them myself. So over here, I'm going to look into my notes, making sure I've selected everything. Yes, I covered that already. Now, my next point that I wanted to jump into. All right. So let's talk about a corporate credit card. 1 second. All right. Let me make sure I got this. This will definitely help out a lot of you, especially if you've built up more business credit over time. This will open up more doors to use this type of business credit card. Let me see. All right, here we are. Now let me move this tab open here. So one company you can go through is Brex. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of them. Maybe you haven't taken action on it. I have. It works well. So you get a smart corporate card, uncapped rewards, 10 to 20x higher limits, no personal guarantee. So that's probably the most attractive point out of anything. Rewards, etc. You get no personal guarantee, but you have to have better business credit established. You're building up these accounts over time. This will be an option for you. And you can see on the left hand side of the screen here how it would look like. The transactions, you can see this here in your dashboard, the amount of points that you earned during those different purchases. And then over here, you get a charge of $12.35 at coffee. Company, please reply with a photo of your receipts, and we'll add it to your transaction. So you get tech support right there, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of companies will allow you to do that. Start building business credit with a credit card paid rapidly, and you see a little bit of this that can be allowed to happen. So who qualifies for companies of any size? No minimum balance, comes with every Brex cash account. Does it build business credit? Both cards do report your payments to credit bureaus to help you build your business credit. What are the limits? Your card limit will be up to 100% of your Brex cash accounts available balance, so that you can make an assessment of in your own business. Do I earn rewards? Earn up to 8x reward points on all card spend. So yeah, you get a lot more with this. How do I pay my card balance? The card is paid daily from your Brex cash account balance. What are the costs? There are no fees and no personal guarantee required for either card. And credit card paid monthly for eligible companies that meet certain size and revenue credits requires application. And a few bit more of these benefits, less on the rewards by one, but nonetheless very good. So without spending too much time on the credit card with Brex, this is an amazing way to go through, and I'll try to leave more information down below so you can learn more about them and how to get started. So I want to move on to my next point, and this is one of my favorites actually, one of my very beginning journey transition there. Let me go over here to the comments. Genuinely different. How are you doing? One thing I want to say before this is I could be spending a lot more time on each and every one of these. But again, like I said, I'm going to leave information for you guys down below in the description so you guys can have more on hand. And this is stuff that I will help you with if you guys submit the questionnaire, and I'll put it as a part of the email. 1 second. Make sure it's there just so you guys have it. And I'll go right into the questions here in just a second. It's in a document here that I want to make sure it is. Okay, so let's come back to this. So once you have built up your credit, do you start receiving offers for business loans? It doesn't work exactly that way. So not all, well, there are two different things. There's business loans and then there are cash advances. So yes, some business loans will report to one major credit bureau, maybe two or all three. Usually it's 1 to 2 or 1. And it's important to have business credit established at that point so we can look at it thoroughly through our underwriting process. And this is stuff that I see on my end. So not necessarily should you be building up credit to be at its maximum or having these access to these business credit cards to be eligible for a business loan. You want to think about, one, what service am I going through? And two, do I have at a minimum business credit established? Where am I on my paydex scale? Where am I here? How much am I getting, etc.? Some, like if it's not a business loan per se, and it's more of this cash advance because it's determined on your future receivables, you're giving up a portion of your revenue in exchange for funding. So that's how it works. And I can go even deeper into that. But I made content on what merchant cash advances and these cash advances are. I'll try to link them down below. But you don't necessarily need to start building up your credit to get offers for business loans. That makes sense, because with like a cash advance, for example, you don't necessarily have your business credit checked. It's just your personal credit. And that's all we're looking at. And we're not reporting it to the Dun & Bradstreets of the world, etc. It's just looked at that, and it's not being sent over to the reporting agencies and make sure it looks good with the creditors and all of this, blah, blah, blah. We can just look at it on your personal credit side, but you get a business cash advance in that. So that's what I want to say, and I'm going to leave it at that. I know there's a lot more information, but let's get back into this part of the video. So you have Capital One, and I'm going to skip this segment here, but you'll see quite a few options. Spark 2% cash plus Spark 1.5% cash select, and then you have the Spark 1.5% cash select, similar to that one, just with the difference on the annual fee. But if we scroll down here, one of my favorites, especially as a startup, is the Capital One Spark 1% Cash Classic. You can earn unlimited cash rewards while building your credit. And this is used as like kind of one of those business credit builder cards that a lot of us are familiar with, where you may not get as much on the limits, where you're building over time. All those little purchases you make, if you use that, not one big purchase, amounts to a lot over time, especially if you're building it underneath the right vendor. So the key point when you're building your business credit is you're making multiple purchases in a month, not just one purchase of $500. You're making 20, 50, 100. Maybe it's going up, maybe it's going down, but it's looking good. And to the lender, to the creditors, they're thinking, well, this person is making periodic purchases over time, not just one big purchase. So we're going to allow them to get into a higher tier. We can also open up higher tier vendor accounts. And that's what's very important. A lot of people disregard that. Rewards, unlimited 1% cash back on every purchase with no minimums or expiration dates, $0 annual fee. That's amazing. Purchase rate, 26.99% variable or APR. So again, take that with a grain of salt. That you're seeing variable at 26%. You may be thinking, okay, that's a little too high. However, are you organized? Are you responsible? Are you accountable? It's what it all comes back to. Credit levels, it's fair. So you can get in with, very low than a very average credit score and get moving forward. And another one here that I didn't want to leave off the list is the Spark 2X miles. And these are for travel rewards with global entry credit. You can earn 50,000 bonus miles once you have spent 4,500 in the first 3 months. So you're seeing a common theme. How much do you have to spend to get a certain reward? How to get certain bonuses? So and you spend 4,500, in the first 3 months. Transfer miles to 15 plus travel partners. That's pretty cool too. It gives you the flexibility to do that. Rewards, unlimited 2x miles on every purchase with no minimums or expiration date. Think about that. No minimums. And there's no expiration date. So you can have it as long as you want. Annual fee, $0 intro for the first year, $95 thereafter. It's common when you see this with travel rewards programs. And we saw that with the other ones, so it's no different. Purchase rates, similar in a way, but a little bit less on the APR, 22.549%, and it is variable again. Credit level, though, you have to have an excellent. So if you need help transitioning from these fair, low-level credits to more of a higher good to great to then excellent, and credit repair is something that you're thinking about doing, don't hesitate on that. I specifically have done it in the past myself, but I've partnered now with somebody who is an expert in this space, who I trust sincerely, who I speak to, who actually sent me a text message today in the morning. He wasn't the first person that I responded to because I hadn't gone through my routine. I won't say his name. Probably you're in here watching. We've already sorted this out. But I've had clients who come in and they need help getting their credit repaired. They need some disputes, late payments. They need stuff off of their report. They need to go from a 600 or so in their credit up to about a 680, 700. If that's something you need help with in repairing your credit, I'll leave an informational questionnaire down below you guys can fill out and understand what program. I'll leave you guys a video too as well. So let's come back to this and we'll close up shop here. I know I want to get close to done here. Rewards, you have more of these cards. And again, we went over the secured credit cards with Wells Fargo, some of those options, and a few of the other ones that may have not been presented. But you see what is available out now in the market. Now, let me transition away from all of this. I believe we've covered everything. Let me look back into my notes section. Another one that I would recommend, aside from Capital One, I don't really look at this one as much, but I know it works well, is the US Bank Business Platinum Credit Card. And this, we're getting into more of the excellent credit, 0% APR for 20 billing cycles, which comes out to be about 20 to 21 months or so, or 22, depending on how you look at that, month to month. And you can get access to, it's like having access to capital for 2+ years without interest in a way. And it's pretty cool. So we covered that. Let me see. I want to make sure. Yes, I covered Capital One. Another one to check out would be Corpay. Corpay, and I've made a video on this recently, so I won't talk too much. Corpay, Torpago, excuse me. Divvy Business Credit Card. I spoke a little bit about that before. And Capital on Tap. There are quite a few more, but I'm going to leave it at that. Let me look through another tab, make sure we transition to the right topic next, and then I will let you guys go. If you guys have any questions right now, would be the time to leave them. We'll try to get out of here in about 5 minutes or so, because I know you guys are busy with time and energy. 1 second. Okay, that's not the one. And I'm looking at one of my document tabs right now. Okay. Now, yeah, let me do this. You guys can't see this right now, but I'm putting my search on my tabs for my document. Sometimes I have a lot of like Google Docs, and I needed to bring this one together. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that. We'll probably revisit it another time. There it is. Share. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss this part. There it is. So for those of you who are wondering about grant opportunities, startup funding options, I'm going to leave you this document. It should be already there down below in the description. I'm always updating this. And so there are many grant opportunities. People will always email me and I'll say, hey, there's not one specifically you should look for when you're looking at it from an industry perspective. However, you should be looking at it as which program actually looks the best suited in terms of their qualifications, their requirements, how much maybe funding possibly I can get, how much competition there may be, etc. And so these options will be down below. I've created content on also what grants are available, like the 10 billion, the 6 billion possibly, what's looking to be moved, and so forth. Now, aside from that, there are other options, but I do want to bring your attention to this. This is a page that I created that I have down below in the description, and you'll get a free video series on how to rapidly build business credit. All we've been talking about today in a way that is more concise, specific, and it doesn't derail you away from the path, because we can get confused. We can start filling out these different forms to get a different credit card. We're confused about the bonus points and the cashback rewards, but are we actually building relationships with these vendor programs? Are we building up trade lines and accounts? You don't want to get yourself into that situation and then later find out that you should have started listening and doing it this way properly, because I've been there. So to get access to over 150 or 250,000 in funding, and I say the two because there are certain levels, especially when you get into the corporate, in funding without being tied to your social security or personal credit score, even if you are a complete beginner or have tried and failed. So this form, you can fill it out and it should bring you directly into my free video series where you'll see a couple of videos and bonus content and bonus material on how to get started. Now, aside from that, let me transition over to this other document and then we'll close up here. There it is. This one I do have open. Oh, well, that's not the one. Oh, that's what I did. Let me refresh the page on this other tab. So I can just type it in because it's in my URL. Now, this is the questionnaire form that I've been talking about for an extended time. You'll find this down below in the description, but if you would like to get a very personalized and customized email response on your best funding option and options, very thoroughly broken down from top to bottom, we're talking about all options you may qualify for and those that you may not, but at least you'll know. You'll have a roadmap for the qualifications, how they work, the numbers, if necessary, bonus tips, bonus material, extra content, a conclusion, most importantly, at the very bottom. So you'll want to reference that conclusion down below when it's done and it's sent back to you, so you understand what you should do, what I would recommend, and so forth. And again, I'm going to take care of you. I know how to do this. I've been doing this for a long time. So you can see some of the services offered. I offer a lot more. I just put a handful of them. And it can look like this more or less. So you'll see that down below in the description. So make sure to check that out. And I'm going to recap right here very quickly on what we touched upon. And if there are any questions, comments, or concerns, then I'll refer to that section. One second. Let me move screens here. Okay. All right, now let me transition away from this screen. So we've spoken about everything in this video. You had a chance to learn about the EIDL versus the private lending options. I spoke about how I already released a video on the unsecured term loan. You'll see one in time for the merchant cash advance and maybe a few more as we move forward into the weeks. You got to see the differences and the similarities, and then understanding that the benefit has to exceed your repayment when you're looking for funding. And transitioning aside from that is how we can also add business credit cards on top of it, or do business credit cards alone. And we learned a little bit about the secured business credit cards from Wells Fargo. And there's another one that may have not been shown that looks more of in an orange format, may be given, may not be given at this time. That's why you didn't see it. But we went over the similarities and what those programs, they all usually are usually very similar. So you got to see that. And then you had an idea on the Chase Inc. And then there's a few more of them that we didn't cover, but there are those available. You have things with Corpay, Brex, US Bank, etc. And the list goes on. And some of those starter ones, like with Capital One, and what you should be doing to build accounts with vendors, and how you need to be having it reporting to the major credit bureaus with commercial business credit. And if you're not doing it appropriately, then it can very much backfire. And you're wondering, well, I wanted 10,000 in funding. Well, you would have had it with business credit had you, but you don't want to look back and think that. You want to say, hey, I had 20,000, I only needed 10,000. I'm using my business credit. Or I can use 20,000 here and I get a loan for 10,000. I'm getting 30,000 in total, and I'm going to be responsible for how I use this. PPP, nothing really happening there on this end right now. Forgiveness is the parts. I've already spoken about that in a different video. Employee retention tax credit getting up to 26,000 per employee. If you're interested in that, I'll leave more information for it down below, but it is a payroll refundable tax credit type of program. So I'll have more information on that in a separate video you guys can watch in all the content. But again, appreciate you all for tuning in, getting a better understanding of building your business credit, all these pro tips, the secured, unsecured credit cards, Wells Fargo, Chase, whatever it may be, where you're turning to get access, however you get started, or if you're more a non-established, not a newly or a startup, but more of a veteran, or you've been in the business for some time, just looking for some other alternatives, now you know what to do. And if you, again, got value out of this, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with others who you feel will get value out of it. It can be a complete stranger, a friend, or a family member, but you know you helped them out at the end of the day. And for all information, down below in the description, fill out this questionnaire will be the fastest way to get a hold of me. And all other information will be there. Questions, comments, or concerns, you know this, down below. And if you haven't subscribed, I would greatly appreciate you if you did. No worries if you don't. I mean, you always get the information that's most up to date. I believe you should, but that's my opinion and my thoughts. If you don't like me, it's okay. I understand. But you wouldn't hurt my feelings. Oh, maybe you will. No, it's okay either way. But if you would like to subscribe, click that bell notification icon so you don't miss any future videos. And I will talk to you soon. That's it for now. Take care.